Well, thank you. Maybe we can dive in a little bit. This is a picture about the banking industry and about how customers are interacting with the bank. Maybe the first question to you here in the audience, who of you is still going to a branch?
Nope.
Anyone?
Nope.
Only a few people. Who of you is using a mobile phone? All of us, right? So it's really moving to digital. The second question is about customer experience. Who of you is using Netflix? Right. Is there anyone here in the audience that can explain to me what you like about Netflix? Anyone? Matthijs? You can use it anywhere, right? So it's all about the customer experience. What we would like to discuss here is that end customers, they really expect a seamless experience. And they expect it across any channel. So what we see here on the next slide is basically the revolution, how we move from the branch to an omni-channel future. And the goal is for the customer to have a holistic brand experience. I think that's really important. In the past, many of these customer interactions were only physical, but then we start to use internet banking, mobile banking, and by accident we actually started to create silos. And these silos, they are really breaking the overall customer experience. So today, we're typically kind of in this multi-channel, cross-channel type of area, and most of the banks really need to move to this omni-channel future. There are two key ingredients that are relevant here. One, it has to be a holistic brand experience, consistent, the same, and seamless. And secondly, the bank needs to have a single view on the customer about what they do, regardless of where they are. I think that's really important, right? Okay, so this future, what we'll see here, I think this is pretty, we know this. We see this in e-commerce, we saw this with social networks, we see this how you work with email. It is universal, it's everywhere, it's on every device. So now in banking, we have the same challenge, or in insurance, same story. How do we create a seamless device handoff? You work on one device and you move to the next one. How can we enable the customer to pause, discuss it with the family, and then continue in a later moment, maybe on a different device? How can we make it consistent in look and feel, and how can we make it holistic from a customer perspective? So I think the end goal is this. If we do service design, if we do user experience design to create these seamless customer journeys, we really have to think about what type of devices and what type of touch points do we have for the customer to interact. For instance, in the top you see for the smartphone, it can be a very quick interaction, like check my balance, make a quick payment. Or on the larger devices, it can be more focused, like really do a mortgage calculation or a simulation to figure out how much money you can loan. So these things actually will kind of be defined across multiple devices, from the smartphone to the large screen and maybe to physical activities in a branch. But on the right side you see how can we, for instance, with a loan application, how can we create a cross-journey, a cross-channel customer journey? And how do we make sure that all these different touch points really act as one? And they are not just a single silo. So the problem in most of the banks, if we go inside the bank or inside of an insurance company, then you typically see this, the silos. And these silos are very broken because it is not possible to do a handoff or a seamless interaction between these different things. It's in the back office where we have the different back-end systems, the legacy systems, but it's also in the front office and on the digital world. Even in the digital world we have silos. The internet banking application typically is separate from the mobile banking application. There's little synergy. So how can we improve that? So basically this is the picture that is kind of summarizing it, is that the industry has to move from channel islands, where you see all the different touch points to the customer are basically separated by brick walls. How do we move that into a single platform that can orchestrate the customer experience across any touch point? Just like Google, just like Facebook, just like Netflix. It is one seamless experience. On the left side with the channel islands, it will always stay broken. How nice your smartphone application is, it might have a 5-star rating, but it is still broken. So I think in the end of the day, how do we make it seamless and consistent? So I guess we have way too many silos. Customer portals, agent portals, call center portals, mobile apps, internet applications, and the end state is that how as an industry, how do we transition from these silos into a seamless customer experience. And the seamless experience on the top should provide personal and relevant interaction with the customer, fast and frictionless, and on any time and any place. And at the bottom, it basically needs to integrate with your core systems. It needs to connect with your CRM, it needs to connect with your service bus, it needs to connect with your governance model to make everything work. But this customer experience layer will act as the customer engagement orchestration platform to make sure that all these interactions for your customers, your agents, and your employees are seamless. Here you see a little bit more detailed picture. It kind of provides you any touch point in the top, and then from that touch point we can get the right content, the right capabilities, the right functionality to the right user in the right context. I won't explain the details, but I hope you get the picture. What this kind of basically do is, one of the key things and key takeaways is that how do we move away from these channel-specific processes where we basically are reinventing the wheel over and over. We have duplicated logic, we have multiple development teams all doing the same thing. How can we move from these siloed kind of environments, which are channel-specific, into an omni-channel process, where, for instance, loan origination or mortgage origination or any capability for the customer is created once, you manage it once, the same content, the same flow, the same workflow, the same process, the same data, and you can reuse that in any touch point. And also the customer can reuse it in one touch point. It's much more efficient, it's much more cost effective, and it has a significant better customer experience. So you win both on the top line as well as you win on the cost saving. I think in the end of the day, to summarize it, in banking, and especially with all the fintech disruption, it is going to be crucial that banks have to move faster. So an omni-channel platform, actually the end goal is to innovate faster. You can keep your legacy systems, but on top of that you basically need a single platform, a digital platform, to move into this digital era and to kind of gain that agile flexibility. That's the first topic. We have to move from channel islands into omni-channel. Oh, let's go back, sorry. The second major topic I would like to discuss is that how do we create those seamless journeys? How do you do that? What is required to make that happen? We all think, are probably familiar with Uber, and what is phenomenal about this example is that basically it's a complete ecosystem. With one smartphone and one push, you can activate a complete solution. Just one button. It's not just an app, it's a complete solution, it's a complete ecosystem. How does that work? Well, I think today what we realize, and especially with mobile, it all starts with the user, and at a given moment they would like to have instant access. Instant. No delay, no hassle, seamless. So we have to create apps that are instant. You push a button and then from that device, the way it is designed on the screen, friendly, easy, one button, it has to go all the way to your back office, kind of to get the right information, the right approvals. And in banking that can be quite complicated. So basically, this is the same picture. How do we design those customer journeys and how do we create those mobile apps that are truly instant and seamless? So typically what you see is the concept of designing for moments of truth. It all starts with the user. It doesn't start with your compliance department. It doesn't start with the products. It all starts with the end user. So there's this notion of service design or user experience design, where you really have to create personas. Who are these users? What are those moments of truth? The mobile moments and context. That's kind of the identification part. Identify those unique moments of truth that really count, and then you start a design process. You typically prototype, you work with feedback groups, and then you go into code development cycles with short agile sprints, as I think we're all familiar with. But it's about focus on those moments of truth and make those experiences completely instant and seamless. It is also about creating a minimum viable product. So you start small, you don't make it too big, and you kind of iterate with small steps towards the goal. So the key formula is here, always focus on the moment of truth, focus on the customer needs, start with prototyping together with your end users and doing it in little steps. I think that's kind of a proven formula. So also here, we see a whole new technology stack, and within Backbase we call this customer first technologies. A lot of technology is never about the customer, it's all about technology in itself or about a back office process. But let's think about customer first technology. Customer first technology is a complete new technology stack. And it's not about pushing stuff from the back end to a channel, like you see on the right side, but it's all about the blue layer here, where you say it starts with user experience design. Then the next layer is how do we get the right data that is relevant for the user, data from the backend, data from the end customer, but the data to drive the interaction. And then the third layer is APIs. Especially nowadays, with all these cloud platforms, with all these fintech players, it is crucial to have access to APIs. Because via the APIs, we're able to kind of get the right functionality and the right capabilities. So basically, in the blue three layers, with the UX, with the data, and with the APIs, we are going to be able to create composite applications. So a composite application is basically a composition. It's like cooking. You have a creative idea, and it's all about how do you get the right ingredients from different APIs, from different users, and how do you combine that into a beautiful app. I think if you look at Facebook, if you look at Uber, if you look at all these applications, they are a composite, and they do a mashup of the right functionality and the right data. So key ingredients, and maybe this is a little bit more technical, but what we now see nowadays is that with Uber, with Airbnb, with all these guys, they are creating a design system. And a design system is basically a language to do fast prototyping and creating little Lego blocks for user interface technology. Maybe you remember the Google apps 5 years ago. They were very technology oriented and they were not that beautiful. Today, if you go to Google, everything is streamlined in a consistent look and feel. Google has a design system and every Google app looks the same, behaves the same. That's because they have invented a UI system, a design system, that has the base UI components, the experience components, and in every application interaction they do with their end customer, it is a consistent set of capabilities. It is great for the end customer because everything is consistent and they recognize the patterns, but it's also great for the developers because they're not reinventing the wheel. For every application they can go into their living style guide, they have their UI building blocks, and they can quickly compose these composite applications. So here you see an example. Typically a design system consists of base components like an icon, a date picker, a button, very simple UI building blocks, UI controls as they refer, but also larger context. Here you see a complete experience component, for instance a rich text editor. So it's kind of the little micro Lego blocks, basically a UI language system that is crucial for this kind of customer experience design. The second part that is important is more on the back end. On the back end, and that's what you see here on the left side, you really need to have a very set of robust experience capabilities. As an example, you need content. Where is the content, in what language is the content, and how can I quickly use that content in my application? Geolocation. I need to send a push notification, so real-time communication. I need to do video communication. So what you see on the left side is basically an experience platform that will provide you as a developer with all the capabilities you require to create these composite applications. It's basically different engines that you can call. I need content, I need push notification, I need to send a targeted message, I need to have access to the backend, I need to authenticate this user. Are they the right user and what are they allowed to see? Security, content, data, personalization, communication, all those capabilities need to be part of that platform. And they are exposed via APIs. So it's almost like an engagement platform as a service in the cloud or in your own data center. And it's nice. So now if you combine this, you have generic UI building blocks with a UI design system. You have a server architecture with all those type of capabilities that can connect to your backend. With that in place, you can faster kind of innovate and create those digital applications. So the end of the day, I think this is the second takeaway, the second conclusion is that the goal moving forward is how can we create those customer-first experiences? How can we use UX, data and APIs? And how can we make those composite apps that are really about instant customer satisfaction? I think that's the major takeaway here. So the key ingredients are a unified design system, data and APIs, and fast innovation focused on the end user. Finally, key takeaway, I think I'm probably repeating myself a little bit, is prototyping is crucial. Don't assume that we know the customer. We made that mistake many times, but I think that's why it's so nice. If you have these UI building blocks, you can quickly prototype, you can validate your idea. There are very nice books about it. It's called a lean startup, and it basically says you do something, you test it with the end users, you improve. Concepts like agile development, minimum viable product, prototyping. For us, as I think all together here, as digital craftsmen and women, I think that's a very important insight, that technology really needs to be multidisciplinary with the UX designers, the product owners, the engineers, the QA, the full development lifecycle, but most importantly, together with the end user, together with the end customer. All right, the third takeaway is about contextual engagement. Contextual engagement is all about the application starting to understand the end user. And this is kind of the era of artificial intelligence. This is the era where we always have the bank or any application in our pocket with the smartphone. And we have a universal amount of data about customer behavior via social networks, via search behavior, via payment behavior, loan behavior, what we have in our CRM system. So we have infinite amount of data, and how can we use that in a meaningful way? Who of you remembers the Microsoft Windows paperclip? Anyone?
Yeah.
Who really enjoyed the paperclip? Nobody. We all hated it, right? Because it was obtrusive. I think that's what we have to be very careful about. We can have all these nice visions about artificial and contextual advice, but it has to be real advice. It has to be extremely relevant. So there's a super thin line between annoying, between spamming, versus being relevant. And I think that's going to be a very exciting journey for us as an industry to figure out how do we find that balance and how do we master this challenge of making it really relevant. So what you see here on the screen is customers are expecting contextual advice. Companies like Google are getting very good at this. Probably Google, Amazon, Uber, etc. The big five, they have a massive head start. Why? Because they have the R&D power and they have the data.
The data.
But I think also for others in the industry, like banks and like in insurance and like us here in this room, we really have to tap into this, in this future together. So let's try to analyze it a little bit on how we can do this. What you see here at the top is, it is important to understand context, but how do you do that? I think the first part is that has to do with events. Something is happening. It's like what, where, and how. Like, for instance, in Google Now, you probably know the search capability, it knows where I am. So it can tell me something about the weather in that location, or it can tell me something about the traffic to home. Or if I arrive here with an Uber app, and if I click on it, it already will suggest the most expected location. And very often it's quite accurate. Depending on where I travel around the world, Uber is predicting my next destination, and it's already giving me 3 shortcuts for the most likely destinations I would like to go to with the driver. Just kind of little facilities to make it easy. So that's kind of understanding the events. What is happening? Where is it happening? And how is it happening? Also with payments, you make certain payments, you see a certain risk issue, you claim something for your insurance. How can we understand those events and use them? Once you have a better understanding of understanding and measuring events, you can connect it to a profile. That means that you collect data about the user, about their behavior in the past, their payments behavior, their browsing behavior, their mobile app visit behavior, and you try to kind of combine this. And then on the right side, on the left side, you typically have to define intents. And an intent is something like a user is likely to do. Those are predefined answers. Although AI and machine learning will be very smart, you still need to have communication, you still need to have intents. So I think this is a very simplified version of how you can look at contextual engagement, but probably those 3 ingredients are universally true, and it's about how do you combine them into a meaningful customer journey. Then finally, at the right here, you see the end user with the heart. They would like to be happy and positive. So eventually, how can you combine events, profile, and intents into something that we can assist the end user? Like, this is your most likely next action. Or how can we engage with them and kind of give them a notification, an alert? Or how can we act on them? Like for instance with robo-advisory, where the robo engine actually will make the investment decision on behalf of the client, right? So how do we get kind of the knowledge to assist, to engage, and to act for the end customer? So I guess in the end of the day, the world will move into this direction roughly. We have lots of data at the bottom. We have social data, we have CRM data, personal finance management, your accounts, your payments, your spending behavior, your saving goals. With something like PSD2, which is kind of the open banking initiative around Europe, we will have access to any bank's data, so we can utilize third-party data as well when the end user gives its consent. And we can combine all of that. So at the bottom we see data, infinite amount of data. And how do we take that data and how do we kind of combine that into something where we can actually do customer recommendations, or robo-advisory, or fraud detection, or real-time communication via a chatbot? Part of this will be rule-based, very simple, if then else. It's not very advanced, but in many cases already a very nice first step to move into this. The second part will be more intelligent, but I think here the industry, we all, and regardless of it's banking or insurance or telco or lifestyle or entertainment, whatever it is, we have to grow through learning cycles to actually educate the algorithms to be truly relevant and on target. But that's definitely going to happen. And finally, if all of that is not helping, then there's always one last resort, and that's probably a human, right? In the end of the day, the humans can step in and they can actually do the work, especially in high-value interactions if that's required. So let's wrap it up. The key ingredients here is understanding the context and then actually moving into context management. And context management is all about contextual engagement. It's about how do we orchestrate customer interactions in a relevant and a personal manner. 5 years ago, we would call this personalization or targeting. Moving forward, we probably still can call it personalization and artificial intelligence to doing this at a higher level. All right, and in the end of the day, with a platform like this, what you really want to do inside those smartphone applications or in any touch point, how can we assist the user, how can we engage them, and how can we act on them? Finally, it's all about creating that win-win. It's a win for the bank, but it's also a win for the end customer. And it will definitely help you to increase cross and upsell. Questions? I will wrap it up a little bit about Backbase. Backbase is helping banks to go into this digital omnichannel future. It provides you with all the building blocks we just described. And in the end of the day, it is very important that we are going to work together to really kind of make those customers happy and create those contextual, instant type of applications. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jouk.
You're welcome.
Now questions. We can take a couple of questions from you. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Name, role, company.
Do we have a microphone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mircea. I'm curious how your clients are connecting their legacy systems to your new set of APIs, your new technology.
Yeah. The question is, how do customers connect to their legacy systems? There's a wide variety of how to do that. We typically work with a very powerful integration engine. So you can integrate with direct connectors, you can integrate via a service bus, you can integrate via an API gateway. We even integrate via HTML clipping. Basically, we have the full spectrum of enterprise application integration patterns. So integration is work, but it's never impossible. There's always a pattern, a very nice clean pattern via an API gateway, etc. But over time, what we see is that most of our clients, of course, have to invest to expose their legacy systems, or at least the key capabilities, via a web service or via an API. Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
Hi, Marius Hanganu from Tremend. Can you detect intents from how a user interacts with widgets in Backbase?
Yes, we can, but it's not just the widget. It's typically more what is inside the widget. So it's about kind of the capability or the data that is in the widget and how often the user is interacting with a specific set of data. That can actually be an indication of an intent. Yes. But I think it's not per se, the widget is just a container, but it's actually what's happening inside the widget that will kind of give us the more meaningful data about what's going on. And then the frequency of interaction or the sequence of events that can lead to an intent. Does that answer your question? A little bit.
Is Raiffeisen taking on this?
There's yes, here this is going to happen in Romania, where we're very glad and honored to be here on invitation of Raiffeisen, and we are implementing the Backbase platform together with them here in Romania. So more to follow.
This is world domination.
I don't know. I hope so.
Okay, thank you.
Step by step. Thank you very much.
Thank you, JOUK.